Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, let's talk about experts. We rely on them for everything, right? From the economy to global politics. But here's the kicker. What if most of them are no better than just random chance? Today, we're diving into the science of superforecasting and how a handful of regular people learn to see the future with shocking clarity.
Yeah, that's the punchline from decades of research by political scientist Philip Tetlock. And this isn't just a funny line, it's a shocking finding that points to a huge problem. The so-called expert predictions that shape our world are often, well, no better than a monkey throwing darts at a board.
And really, this contrast gets right to the heart of it. On one side, you've got your celebrity pundit. They're famous, they're super confident, and they offer up these big, bold opinions that nobody ever goes back to check for accuracy. And on the other side, you've got someone like Bill Flack, a retired government employee, pretty much unknown, very cautious, but his forecasts have been tested and his track record is incredible. So why do we put one on TV and totally ignore the other?
Okay, so if the big-name experts aren't always the best, what gives? What actually separates someone with real foresight from someone who's, just guessing? Well, it turns out it comes down to two very different ways of thinking.
So first, you've got the hedgehog. And this type of thinker, well, they see the whole world through just one single powerful idea. It doesn't matter if their big ideas about free market magic or historical cycles, they cram every single problem into that one box.
Take pundit Larry Kudlow. He's a textbook case. A firm believer in supply-side economics, he confidently went on TV and predicted a booming economy right when the Great Recession was officially starting. His one big idea was like a pair of glasses that colored everything he saw, making him blind to the flashing red warning lights all around him.
So here's the crazy paradox, right? We actually reward the hedgehogs. They tell these simple, confident stories that sound great on TV. And it led to this wild finding in Tetlock's research. There was an inverse correlation. The more famous an expert was, the less accurate they tended to be. The people we see the most are often the ones who are wrong the most. And then, on the other side, you've got the fox. Now, unlike the hedgehog, the fox is a total pragmatist. They pull in information from all over the place, they synthesize different viewpoints, and they are completely comfortable with complexity, with nuance, and with saying, I'm not sure. They don't have one big idea, they have a whole toolkit.
All right, so if we know that foxes are better forecasters, the natural question is, how much better? Well, that exact question got put to the test in this amazing competition, sponsored by, of all people, the U.S. intelligence community.
It was called the Good Judgment Project, or GJP.
And this was a huge deal. Philip Tetlock, the same guy from the start, got thousands of regular people, volunteers, with zero intelligence background, and had them forecast these incredibly complex global events. We're talking everything from the stability of the euro to whether a conflict would break out in some hotspot.
And the results? They were absolutely stunning. The GGP teams didn't just win, they blew the competition out of the water. Look at this. They beat the control group by 60% in the first year, and then an unbelievable 78% in the second. And they weren't just beating other volunteers. Get this. They were consistently outpredicting professional intelligence analysts who had access to classified info.
So, inside this winning group, they found this elite squad. They called them Superforecasters. And we're talking about the top 2% of all the volunteers, people like Doug Lorch, a retired programmer from IBM. These were just ordinary folks with no special access to secrets, and yet they were consistently beating the pros at their own game. So this just begs the question, right? What is their secret? What makes them so good? And maybe more importantly, is it something that you and I can actually learn?
Okay, so let's get into the toolkit. Because the big answer here is yes, superforecasting is not some kind of magic power you're born with. It's a very specific set of skills, mental habits really, that you can learn and you can practice.
Okay, so it all starts with how they approach a problem. Instead of jumping right into the juicy details of a situation, what they call the inside view, superforecasters always start with the outside view. They just ask a really simple question. How often does this kind of thing happen in general? They get that baseline number first, and only then do they start tweaking their forecast based on the specifics of what's happening right now.
And this really gets to their core strength, the ability to pull together a ton of different viewpoints. The book has this great term for it, a dragonfly-eyed view.
You know how a dragonfly's eye is made up of all these tiny little lenses? That's what they do. They combine all these different pieces of information to create one much clearer picture of what's really going on.
This is a huge difference from the pundits, you know? They love to use these vague, squishy words like might or a serious possibility. Super forecasters, they speak in numbers. They make their judgments super precise, pinning an actual probability to it. And this isn't just to sound smart, it's about being held accountable. It means you can actually go back and see where you went wrong and learn from it.
And that precision, it's a massive jump from how most of us think, right? We tend to have this very simple, three-setting mental dial. It's either going to happen, not going to happen, or maybe. Super forecasters just completely break free from that. They learn to fine-tune that dial and actually feel the difference between, say, a 60% chance and a 70, or even a 73% chance.
So when you put it all together, you see that these behaviors all point to a handful of core traits. Super forecasters aren't born, they're made. They're what you'd call actively open-minded. They treat their beliefs like theories to be tested, not like treasures to be protected. They're good with numbers, they're super self-critical, and, this is key, they are always updating their beliefs when new facts come in.
Okay, so after hearing all that, you might be thinking, wow, that sounds like it takes years of hard training. But here's the really cool part. The barrier to getting started is way lower than you think. This is absolutely a skill that anyone can start working on.
So how learnable are we talking? Well, this one number tells the whole story. In that JGP tournament, just a single 1-hour training tutorial improved people's forecasting accuracy by an average of 10% for an entire year. That is a huge return for just 60 minutes of your time.
And a huge piece of the puzzle is adopting what the psychologist Carol Dweck famously called a growth mindset. It's this fundamental belief that your abilities aren't set in stone. When you have a growth mindset, mistakes aren't failures, they're just opportunities to learn. And putting in the effort isn't a chore, it's the actual path to getting better. This mindset is really the engine that drives all of this improvement. There's this fantastic quote. People often say it's from the economist John Maynard Keynes, and it just perfectly sums up the whole super forecaster mindset. When the facts change, I change my mind. What do you do, sir? You see, it's not a sign of weakness to change your mind. It's the ultimate sign of strength. It's the very core of being smart and getting closer to the truth over time.
So in the end, the thing that separates a super forecaster from everyone else, it's not some magic inborn genius. Not at all. It's a commitment to the process. It's the result of deep, focused practice, of keeping score, of looking at your mistakes without flinching, and of always trying to think a little bit clearer, a little bit better. And all of this leaves us with one last really big question. Because this isn't just about winning some forecasting tournament, right? It's about making better decisions in our businesses, in our governments, and in our own lives. So just imagine, what if we started demanding this? What if we moved past the confident storytellers and started demanding accountable, accurate foresight from our leaders, from our media, and from ourselves? Just think about what we could achieve then.